I wanted to start off by asking you what you meant by digitalization is better than digital.
What I meant is that it's actually bigger than digital. And what I mean is, very often during conversation about digitalization, we very quickly talk about all the technology aspects like the chatbots, artificial intelligence, how can we embed machine learning into our service offering, and the entire conversation becomes very, very technical. In my view, too technical. So while the technical touch points are important, we need to make sure that the entire picture stays in the focus and not only the technology.
What does successful digitalization look like?
For me, successful digitalization really goes down into three key components. One are the digital elements I have just mentioned in the beginning, like the chatbots, the touch points, how can we closer interact with the customer whenever he or she wants. But the second key component, which is actually the hardest part, are the connected end-to-end processes, so that you do not only create an overlay of a digital touch point as a copy of an old or traditional channel, but yet you really connect these end-to-end processes. That's what really makes the life of the consumer much easier. And the third component, which is also an important one, is that you create additional value for the customer. What I mean by that is, if you, for example, introduce a new channel, but you remove a channel that is still valued by the majority of your customers, then from a customer point of view, you have only shifted value. You have not created additional value. And it's very key that we, in this digitalization effort, create that additional value for the customer.
How does it change existing services and customer interactions?
So what's interesting to watch is, if you look today, we have processes defined with a start and an end, left to right. Then we have a second process, a third, and a fourth. The digital touch point, what they create is that a person cuts through these processes we had in the past. Today you can easily have on your mobile phone an application I mentioned before that allows you to check your bank account statement. Then you probably want to see how the stock market performed for your portfolio. You might want to look up a company you have invested in, and at the same time you want to call your client advisor. While you can do this with a finger click in the back, this really cuts to many different organizations and processes. So it's very important that we review the customer experience and do not just create a copy of our existing processes. So that's one interaction that changes how I see it. It also creates more demand for flexibility. The second one is that we really create ecosystems where these solutions interconnect with each others, so that when you're on a platform of a bank, for example, that it is as easy for you to connect to these services as when you use your Google ecosystem or the Apple ecosystem or Spotify, which not only provides you great music, but also tells you where the next concert happens in the city you're at the moment. That's what I call about an ecosystem. And if we then connect this to external providers through APIs, or in non-technical term, service interfaces, then you really create value without you having to leave our ecosystem. It becomes more painful to leave that ecosystem, but it also creates more value if done well. I think that's how it changes.
What are the challenges and pain points?
I see around 3 challenges we face with the whole digitalization strategy or evolution. One is that creating these new customer experiences and redesigning processes take a lot of time. You also will have to break silos within a company. It could be that you were a service owner of one service, somebody else was a service owner of another service, and now when you reshape this customer experience, these services might become one entity that needs a new owner. At the same time, while we create the future, we also have to maintain our core system in a stable way so that we actually keep banking of our existing environment. And this takes a lot of time and effort. So that's one key challenge. The second challenge I see is how we develop new solutions. We need to move away from designing the perfect solution and go into a more minimal viable product approach. What I mean is, take the 2 or 3 essentials that make a product viable. Once it's tested, put it out to the market and see how the market reacts, and then develop where the market really wants to have more and forget where the market wants to have less. I give you 2 examples. If you think about Twitter, the only thing Twitter put out on the market in the beginning is that you can send messages and that you can receive messages. And through the hashtag technology, you could filter information that were relevant for you, and that's all they did. Later, they extended the service much broader. Dropbox, for example, a file storage system, went even further. They even didn't have a product. They published a video that showed how the product could look like. And within a few days, they got 10,000 of responses back from customers, what they liked, how they would use it. And this allowed them to then launch a minimal product, which became very successful. I think we can learn from that and need to adapt. And the third challenge is the culture. We need to move into a more innovative culture, but culture is the result of values, beliefs, rules, and is actually formed over a long period of time through reward systems, through punishment. So if we want to move into a more innovative culture, we also need to change these patterns and also the reward system. So these are the 3 challenges I see, but they're also great opportunities.
Do you think that design thinking needs to be a priority for banks to improve customer interaction?
It's a very interesting question, and the short answer is yes. What design thinking does, it applies a creative approach to problem solving. Design thinking, also known as human-centric design thinking, is not new. It has been around for a while, but it has a very strong focus on the discovery phase, the design phase, and later maybe the deployment. So in the discovery phase, design thinking pays a lot of attention. What is the real problem a customer faces? It's more important to understand the problem in its entire complexity and maybe not have a solution yet, rather than rushing to a quick solution for maybe the wrong addressed problem. Later then, design thinking distills through an ideation process ideas that could be developed further and creates a prototype. And this prototype then gets tested with customer interaction interviews. At that point, you have not developed anything yet. So it's a very cheap way that takes a few weeks to test. And if the response is negative, you just throw it away. So what I believe is that design thinking helps us to develop those products we don't know yet how the market will respond yet, and actually go through a prototype phase where design thinking gives us very good methodologies. So the answer is yes, I think it will be a very good tool for us.
How important is it for incumbents to collaborate with fintechs?
I think it's very, very valuable for incumbent banks, but also for the fintech. What's interesting about the fintech is a fintech or a startup in general picks a very specific problem the startup believes is not solved yet or not solved good enough in the market. The fintech then doesn't have all the embedded organizational challenges, hurdles, sometimes politics, so the fintech can move very fast. If banks collaborate with fintechs or look what they do, you can ask yourself, did they solve a problem we internally have not attacked yet? And could we implement it in our bank with a very easy approach? On the other hand, existing banks have a brand, a trust, a customer base, so we can offer a platform for the fintech to test whether the solution really works. Even if there is no collaboration at the end, this process allows a fintech to learn and maybe adapt its service offering for another audience or another bank. It's important that we do not only look at fintechs, because many great ideas are also born within an organization, but sometimes are not heard. And we also need to look left and right. We have technology companies that create APIs or service interfaces that allow us to extend our ecosystem. So it's important that we really have a broader look and collaborate wherever it makes sense. I think it's a win-win for all of us.
So what do you look for in a fintech?
It's important that the fintech can really articulate a value proposition. So what are they offering? If I don't understand the value proposition after probably 5 minutes, the value proposition is a bit too vague. What's really great is if the fintech has something I could easily plug into our existing banking system. Sometimes it's called a white label solution. If a fintech has something I can use and offer my clients with putting my logo on it, it's a big win. But very often it's also good enough if we can have a conversation with the fintech and learn what they try to tackle, and maybe with slight modification we can use it. So the conversation is really what drives the idea, and that's where I see the value, because they really look at problems differently, and getting challenged on an existing problem is something that evolves a potential solution. So that's where I see really the key ingredients of a successful fintech.
Great. Thank you, Chris. That was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
You.
Cheers.